Hey, sports nutrition class. I am going to be going over chapter 1 for you, the PowerPoint, just to give you some more background into what the PowerPoint's talking about with chapter 1. And then I know I have more slides that are associated with chapter 1 PowerPoint rather than what's in the book. And I've brought those slides in because those are from a previous book that we used to use, and I felt that those are beneficial for you, but I don't want you spending $120 on a book that we're going to use for one chapter or even like 2 chapters. It's not worth it. So anyway, so let's get started here. So nutrition and fuel system for sport is what we're looking at, and we have to understand the difference in nutrition. I've already talked to you about the macronutrients and the micronutrients. This chapter is kind of talking more about those macro and micronutrients, but it's also going into food groups that fit into those categories. So what we want to also understand is you need to know a couple things that we need to ask ourselves when we're dealing with nutrition, because there's some questions that we need to ask, some statements that we need to say yes to, and then we can move on from there. So good nutrition, and this would be the third slide, is very simple, but it takes us being disciplined. And this is the funny thing about nutrition. We can know a ton of stuff about nutrition, but it comes down to a very, very simple concept for us, and that is actually practicing nutrition and making it easy on ourselves. And so it's the same thing with brushing our teeth, practicing good hygiene, to combing our hair, taking a shower, or even getting up and exercising. We don't need to exercise hard and intense, but we need to be moving. And that's something that you have to come to if you want to change your nutrition. You have to make a statement saying, I am going to actually change, not just get all this knowledge. So I'm going to give you the knowledge, and it's going to be very basic, and it's going to help you start to get more in depth in understanding it, because at the highest level, yes, there are things that we have to be very, very specific about. We're not going to get really specific. We're going to get to the basic of things so you can make actually a decision to move forward in having quality nutrition. So couple of things is that we need to know the 6 essential nutrients, and we've talked about those. That's where you have your fats, protein, and carbohydrates, water, vitamins, and minerals. So those are your 6 essential nutrients that we're going to look at. And so we've already talked about micro and macro, so understanding those. And then we have to say, hey, we're going to achieve this. And so 3 questions that you have to ask yourself is, foods need to be anti-inflammatory. And so what I mean by being anti-inflammatory is that when you have something that's inflamed, so say for instance, you sprained your ankle's going to swell up. It means that there is something that's wrong and it's hurting you. And so there is an inflammation there. And so what we have to do is we have to find foods for us. Every single one of you is going to be different, but we have to find foods for us that are anti-inflammatory, that don't inflame our system. And so one thing that we have to recognize is what may inflame us and what may cause us to feel bad. And so that is something that you have to take in consideration. One thing, as I have gone through this journey of figuring out things that for myself that could be inflammatory to my system, is that I had to take foods out, and then I slowly added foods in. So as I have found in this journey is that though I love cheese, it is actually inflammatory towards me. And so I can't really have it. And so I know when I have it that probably that night I actually may even have night sweats because of it, because it's inflammatory to my system. My system has to work harder. My body is actually working harder to get rid of it. That's not normal. I should be able to go to bed, sleep well, have no issues, wake up ready to go the next day. And that's what all of you guys want too. I know that being a student's a little bit more difficult for that, But the most important thing is that you have anti-inflammatory food. Another food that for me that's inflammatory, and I for the longest time I was like, why would I get tired after going out to breakfast for, like the same thing as eggs and bacon and hash browns? I have the same thing at home. But I forgot that I would add sourdough bread also to that breakfast. And literally within 10 minutes of eating that breakfast and having sourdough bread, my body is having a reaction to that, and it actually makes me tired. So, come to find out, I don't have sourdough bread anymore. I have not had any issues now. Every time I go out to eat for breakfast, if I don't have sourdough bread, and so finding a correlation there is something that you have to find for yourself. So if you're working with other people, some people can, no problem having sourdough bread. My husband, no problem having sourdough bread. Me, on the other hand, can't have it. And so we have to work through that process. Another thing that we have to say yes to is nutrient-dense foods. Meaning, how colorful are they? What kind of nutrients are they giving us? Are they giving us strong macronutrients? And are they also giving us some micronutrients that we need? And so nutrient dense is what we're looking for. So we're looking for foods that cover a large basis in our diet. The other reason is we don't then have to have more foods to find those nutrients that we're needing for our body to function properly. And then the last thing is low in toxins. And why I say low in toxins is that we need to know what is in our food. So one thing is you go along this process and you're going to see that you've probably already seen in the video about sugar, or you're going to see it about sugar, is that we have to be aware of what products are in processed foods. And if you're not eating processed foods, then that's a really, really good thing, because you're going to actually have low toxins. So the three things that we're looking for when we're looking at food, and this is over the board, sports nutrition, general nutrition, is one, we need foods that are anti-inflammatory, especially for athletes. You don't want to be fighting inflammatory from your food along with inflammatory from just training. Then nutrient density, you need nutrient dense foods so that you can actually take those foods, use the nutrients from it, that it can actually help your body function to create speed, muscle mass, or anything other things, recovery. We need those types of things. And then lastly is low in toxins. You have to be able to say yes to. So what is actually in your food? So make sure that when you're picking the foods that you're going to eat on a daily basis, that you can say yes to those three. And if you can't, then you need to take time to reevaluate what are you putting into your body. So you have to think of your body. I like to think of it as I'm a diesel engine. I'm going to go. If I put gasoline, the wrong fuel, into my diesel engine, I'm going to have a major problem. I'm going to have to take it to the shop, and it's going to have to get worked on, and it's going to cost me a lot of money. That's the same thing in our bodies. Our bodies run a certain way, and it's mechanical, and it needs the right energy and the right foods to be able to do that. So we're going to look at food groups now. And so we're looking at food groups. Food groups fall under the umbrella of your 6 essential nutrients. So food groups are going to fall under this. This is where you're going to get your nutrients and what you're going to see with carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And these food groups help you get okay, we need certain servings within these food groups. Now, some people are going to need more in some areas, some people are going to need less. This is the same with macronutrients. Micronutrients are pretty similar, that you need a certain amount of a daily value. But for the macro, that's going to change depending on the sport that you're participating in, what you're trying to accomplish, where you are at in the season. And that we'll talk about that as we move on into further chapters of each macronutrient. So, food groups. This is going back to probably like fourth grade health, and maybe we didn't recognize that this is very, very important to our understanding. So now this is something that we need to consider. So food groups that we have to understand are fruits, vegetables, and legumes. Legumes are going to be your beans. So beans are a part of fruit, vegetables, and legumes. And so one thing that we have to be aware of is that we need quite a bit of this category. And this category is also going to give you a lot of your vitamins that you need. Minerals are going to come more from a protein-based food, which is going to be more of your lean meats and some of your fats. But what will happen is you get most of your vitamins from fruit, vegetables, and legumes. So the group should make up about a third of what you eat. And it's an essential role in protecting the body now and also for future from disease. We need fruit and vegetables. And so there is like this, oh, you can't have as many carbohydrates, you can't have this, you can't have that. Okay. There are certain times where people need to change their diet to reset their body, and this one thing is a better situation for them compared to somebody else. At the end of the day, you still need to get your micronutrients from fruit and vegetables. You need these nutrients so that your body at a cellular level can function. So when we're looking at this, fruit and vegetables and legumes are huge with antioxidants. They're helping the body stay healthy. And fiber is useful for allowing for proper bowel function and for the body to resist some diseases. So fruit and vegetables are usually found for carbohydrates. One of the main fruits is actually a fat, and that would be an avocado. So you're going to see avocado fall into a fat. It has a very, very good fat content and is extremely healthy for you. But fruit and vegetables usually fall into the category of carbohydrates. So you can get a lot of your carbohydrates just by eating fresh fruit and vegetables, or even frozen fruit and vegetables. Frozen fruit and vegetables, the quality is just as good as fresh fruit. If you're doing canned, you need to be aware that there can be some sugar content added to canned fruit and vegetables. So just be aware of that when you're looking at doing canned fruit and vegetables. But most importantly, fruit and vegetables are where your carbohydrates can come from, and it's one of the best sources. Now, legumes are a part of this category because it's your beans, but legumes are a protein. And if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you're going to probably lean towards having a lot of protein come from your legumes. As an athlete, it is tough to be a vegan or a vegetarian because of the lack of protein that you get. There are athletes that can do it, but you have to be very, very careful about what you're putting into your body. As a coach and as a athlete myself, I tend to be one that is not a vegetarian or a vegan. Maybe I just like meats more than and the taste of them. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. That's where we're going to talk. You can see that protein can come from your legumes. Now, when we're looking at the food groups, fruit and vegetable and legumes, these are underconsumed, and we need to be aware of this, that we truly need to take in more fruits and vegetables. This is something that I think that as athletes, and especially if you're on the go, fruits and vegetables are actually very, very easy to carry with you, and we tend to not carry them. And then we say, oh, I'm just going to go buy a muffin. Well, a muffin and carbohydrates is going to have higher density of calories compared to fruits and vegetables actually are going to give you more of your micronutrients compared to a muffin. So if I'm going to choose, I need to choose to have my fruits and vegetables, carrying those with me. I know it's difficult, but what has to happen is you have to create that standard for yourself. And that's the issue nowadays, is that we don't create that standard. And we are conditioned as people to want to have those sugars, the easy stuff. Hey, I'm in the same boat. I am conditioned that way too. If I don't take the time to find it, I don't want to. So those are just some things to be aware of as we go into this. Now, one of the campaigns that the U.S. has had in the past couple